Hey guys, it's me again, Orchler. What is where we last left off? Let's see, checking. We last left off on what if Belle was a Chaos Warrior, or at least the beginnings of one. Dog, quit trying to get in my face. Samson's being his usual stuff. Stop it, boy. Anyways, where we last left off, Zeus is kinda dead. If I remember, yeah, Chaos God, being 4 and Zeus being 1, that fight didn't go very well. So, what would happen exactly is, after the fight, they would teleport, the Chaos Gods, would teleport Belle's grandfather's body back, and in very rough shape. It would be not unidentifiable, but it would make it look like it couldn't have been done by human hands. Which is kind of true in this case. He looks like he's been completely killed by the Beastmen. Sorry, I had to go look up a name real quick. Aurora. Essentially, they instruct Aurora to get Belle's grandpa's body and take it back to the town. But in this time, as the Beastmen, since they weren't really directly controlled by the Chaos Gods, she still had to fight them off. Which ended with her getting hurt a little bit, so it would be believable that she wasn't the one to do it. So what happens is, she takes the body back all the way to... She takes the body back all the way back to the village. And when she returns, of course, Belle is completely heartbroken. This is the man who has been raising him for a long while. And now that only person he has left is Aurora, who he still cares for her greatly, but even though he doesn't say it, he would have wished his grandfather was still alive. And so what he ends up doing is... well, he becomes more standoffish, I guess you could say, to those in town. Like, he still goes out and plays with the kids and does the, the work he knows how to do around the farm. Aurora does feel bad that, Zeus was killed for this and that he had to die. But again, that's how she sees it. He had to die for Belle to reach his full potential. And since she believes these voices, quote-unquote, in her head, these gods, she decides that that is the best option, is to find a way to get Belle to worship them as well. Even though she does not realize this, she's being heavily... what's the word? Indoctrinated, really, into worshipping the Chaos Gods. She may not want, if she was in her full bearing, she would realize more what is going on. But she doesn't, which is the sad part. So all she can really do is just make sure Belle's taken care of. Which she'll do to the best of her ability, but it's only so much you could ever really do in this scenario. So, as she's going about trying to help Belle, she starts throwing in subtle little things about, gods, which Belle already knew about the gods, but eventually this gets him curious enough to ask exactly who does she follow. As she's about to answer, she doesn't really know their actual title or pantheon, so she just says... the primordial ones. Since the gods of chaos have sort of claimed they've been there way longer than anybody else. Since she really doesn't know any better, she just sort of goes along with it. Which is really the only thing she can do. So as she goes on to explain their nature, of course she makes it more pretty than what they actually are. She explains that her family and the like didn't worship any of these new gods, as she would put it with quotations, she would say that they more or less worship the 4 aspects of life, such as strength, honor, and war, and blood, which Belle would be put off by a little about some of these names, like the god of scheming, lies, and truth. Or really truth and scheming and all that. Belle would be like, that doesn't sound good. How can you be truthful while scheming? She says she doesn't quite understand it herself, so she doesn't really worship him, but she acknowledges that he is essentially one of them. So she tries her best to pray a little bit to him for small things here and there. Then she explained Nurgle in a way that he is a god of life. And that is the only word she really ever used, is that he gives you the ability to endure pain beyond your imagine, and allows you to have constant life and death and rebirth, a great endless cycle. And then she talks about Slaanesh, who is love, pride, and happiness. She doesn't go into more detail. The only one she's really been truthful with is Khorne, but she explains it as that is the natural thing of most life, is to end one another, but to also respect it. So Belle gets in his head, okay, but he doesn't really quite understand, how do you actually pray to these gods if they're supposedly different than other ones? This is where more of the influence of the 4 come into practice. They explain that it's like sort of taking over her body and speaking with her voice. They explain that it's more direct than what the other gods would have you do. So instead of just praying to them, you would make offerings and or do actions that would sort of abide by their tenets, quote unquote. So for Khorne, he would want you to find a way that you could progress even further, like find ways to better yourself, such as fighting, doing things to just make yourself, a better fighter and warrior. So the next just asks you to, do what you love. If you're reading, read it, all that sort of deal. And try to have a bit of pride in yourself. Tzeentch talks about acquiring knowledge and trying to learn something new. And Nurgle just tells you to sort of spread his teachings and love around, quote unquote. In a way, asking sort of just like a small time devotion. Each of the 4 recognize Belle really can't do anything major at this moment. But what they can do is sort of give them small little boons here and there to show that they are listening, that they are caring enough to give him the aid that he seeks. And so he does. Throughout these couple of years, Belle does small things, such as he picks a fight with a couple of bullies that have been known to pick on the smaller people in town. He beats them up, wins, and sometimes he hurts them a bit more than necessary, getting a little bit of blood to flow, which, as Khorne does not care with the blood flow, just that it does. And so then you get on to Slaanesh. He starts being, a bit more prideful. Nothing too big to where it goes over into arrogance, but he tries to do things he enjoys. He tries to read, and he does sort of a combo between Slaanesh and Tzeentch. He loves reading books. He takes pride in the fact that he knows a lot of stories. So what he does is he finds tries to find new books about old history and a little bit of magic. He doesn't know how to do anything, but he knows that maybe one day he'll be able to if the gods deem him worthy enough. Quit it. Sorry, dog's whining because I just started recording. Why do you always do this? And then there's Nurgle. Bell doesn't really know how you worship him. Like, you're supposed to enjoy life and spread Nurgle's teachings, which from what Bell can tell is all about embracing one another and loving one another. And embracing the grand cycle of death, rebirth, and weird stasis. Bell doesn't know how to explain it, but he tries his best to do that as well. He talks with the children in town. He speaks to them, getting them to somewhat understand his religion, quote-unquote. But that's all he's about able to do. It's not much, but it does please Nurgle a little bit that he's doing his best with what he can do at the moment. So, Nurgle gives him a little boon here and there. Maybe he's a little tougher. Maybe something that hurt him the day before doesn't hurt him today. They haven't done anything real big because he hasn't earned anything big. Whether or not that will happen in the future, we will see. As it continues to spiral on from here. As I believe Bell was around the age of 16 or so when he got into Aurario. At this point, Bell and Aurora's relationship has grown even deeper. He still misses his grandfather, of course, and still tries to live the best by his codes. Like, sorry. He was taught to be polite, be proper, and never intentionally hurt people. To be the quote-unquote hero that he always wanted to be. The gods have also played on this fact, but they are starting at this point, a year or so later, to play on this. Try and get him to divert just that little. And once or twice they have even talked to him in his dreams. Those ones were Tzeentch and Slaanesh, of course, because of that's sort of where their influence can lie most. Khorne or Nurgle are more likely to appear in the physical sense, where they'll send somebody to go speak with them that they could speak through. Slaanesh appeared in her, well, let's just say, if you've seen fan art of her, you probably know what it is. But less demonic, like in some features, a lot less demonic than what they would be. And Tzeentch appears different every time, because Tzeentch has visited him once or twice to give him a little bit of knowledge here or there, as he is not Tzeentch. He says he is not Tzeentch himself, but more or less a servant of the kind of benevolent god, and sort of gets Bell to cooperate even more so. It's a very delicate thing Tzeentch is trying to do. He's trying to curry more favor with this would-be champion. But he's okay with that. He loves playing the long game. But he sort of teaches Bell about the basics of magic, and that he sort of gifts Bell a little bit of magic potency, giving him the ability to learn a few minor spells, nothing big. He isn't like, throwing giant fireballs, but he can cause some fire to come out of his hands, maybe a bit of ice, small things like that, and a pure magic as well. Alright, go away. Go, I've been petting you. Go. But I digress. This, eventually all leads up to where the day finally comes that Bell goes to leave the town. And he does. He sets off his journey with his sister following. Aurora follows. And in these coming years, Aurora has gained a bit more favor, little bit after little bit after little bit, with, the gods. What she has started doing to gain a bit more favor since she, from what they can tell, has no aptitude for the magic, since a lot of her soul and the like comes from the fact that they had to revive her, and if any sense of magic was there in the beginning, they really couldn't replicate it, or at least didn't take the time to replicate it. So what they had ended up doing is they gave her more physical traits, like she can perceive time better, she's a bit stronger now, a bit tougher, all that sort of deal. Her weapon, the Morning Star, if I remember, still does a little bit of stuff. And if I remember, she did have one... No, she didn't have a spell, but she had certain things like disease-ridden blood or something of the like. A sort of, not immunity to pain, but a sort of fondness for it. Where she didn't mind getting hurt, if you would. And from this point, she really hasn't gotten all that much, but that's just merely because they haven't done enough. So they're going to set off on their journey to Aurario. In the meantime, we cut over to a different figure. He is different in the sense that he knew Zeus before either of them were ever around. So we cut over to not Hephaestus, not Persephone. Not Apollo. There's a lot of gods. Damn it. Hermes. There we go. We cut over to Hermes. Now, Hermes has been around for a very long time. I can't remember if he's a son of Zeus or a brother. I often forget. Sorry for my nose. I have a little bit of a sinus thing going on. Just like, blockage. Anyways, as I digress. Hermes and Zeus was pretty close, and Zeus always told Hermes about Bel, and I don't know if I've gone over this. It's been a little while. I had to stop because of things in real life. So FYI, I'm sorry. But as Hermes was told about who Bel was, he started getting told about this new girl, Aurora, there we go. And that piqued his interest as well, and then one day, he just stopped receiving letters. He doesn't know why or how, but he has a very strange inkling something might have happened, so he goes on his merry way to go see what had happened. And when he gets there, he finds out that Zeus is gone, whereas everybody around the village knew him as the old man. And then he comes to learn that Bel and Aurora have gone to Aurario. Bel at this point is a bit older, is a bit younger, let's say, than when he originally goes. If I remember in the anime, he's about 16. I believe it was 16. I may be wrong. Do not hold me to that. It's been a little while. But he's wondering, this was ahead of schedule. Zeus was supposed to die later than what it is now, so he's concerned, and now he's going to try and go track Bel and Aurora down. Because something's interfering with the plan. If something has caught wind of the plan for Bel to become the last hero, that is a very big concern, not to just Hephaestus, but to the entirety of Aurario and the gods in it. And for Zeus to be killed, as it would be, would take a major force. Something beyond even what half the gods in Aurario may be able to pull together. Because if you remember, Zeus is chief deity, or the king of gods, and his personal pantheon. That is a very big deal and something to be completely worried. And if that's the case, Hermes is legitimately scared to some extent. So what he does is he sends out his messengers, his sort of feelers, so to speak. He's trying to get as much information as he can about potentially dark omens that have appeared recently. He's heard that there's been an increase in beastmen attack. He doesn't know exactly if that's correlated. He knows small things like the beastmen worship odd gods. And he uses the word gods very loosely because he's never even heard of someone interacting with said gods aside from the beastmen, so he doesn't even know if that's the case here. But he does know that maybe if they are going on the move to influence other races, that is a very bad thing. And it needs to be taken care of as soon as possible. Because this may lead to even worse scenarios. As we cut back over to Belle and Aurora, there will be a few setbacks here and there, nothing too major. Like, they try to go on one journey, but then they get offset by Tzeentch himself. Tzeentch is trying to make him take a way to where Belle is forced to confront, in a way, challenges that the Four have constructed. Because again, he's very new in the whole stage of corruption. And he's not really even in their midst. He's being unknowingly guided by not just them, but Aurora herself. So, in a way, this is going to be like a weird trial situation. And it may or may not push Belle to his absolute limits. But we'll have to figure that out next time. Again, sorry for the late upload. It got very chaotic out of nowhere. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Hope you guys continue to enjoy this. And I hope you guys have a nice day, nice night, nice